Hey guys, how you doing? This is JT from JT Corn Rings with a new type of way that I'm doing a video today. I want to do a book review of what I've read so far in this book called Booker T. Washington in Africa, The Making of a Pan-Africanist. This is by Dr. Tyrene Wright, PhD. I'm reading this book in my book club every Sunday. The Read Book Club with Dr. Oyamayat. It's another thing that I love to do. Love collecting coins. I love making corn rings, and I love to read about history. So I wanted to share some information about Booker T but I want to do it with my coins. I shared on the show that I collect coins. And one thing I learned in this chapter is that Booker T. Washington was such an impact to a couple of thought leaders that I'm very fond of. And I didn't know that he was so interconnected with these leaders over the years, all by his stance on allowing African Americans to experience life in Africa by way of things that he learned at Tuskegee Institute, by implementing so many things to help with the soil, help with the Back to Africa movement. So I didn't know all these things about Booker T and how influential he was. So here I have the Booker T. Washington commemorative coins. These are $50, 90% silver. And we have to know that Booker T, that he was born into slavery around the 1800s, 1850. He was from Virginia, a part of Virginia that I wasn't familiar with until I read the book. In the late 1850s, we don't know exactly what day Booker T was born, but he was born in Harrells Ford, Franklin County, Virginia. He lived in a one-room house with his mother, his sister, and brother. Okay? So, but Booker T longed to learn about Africa. His mother was from Africa. I don't believe he knew exactly what part of Africa she was from, but one thing about him, he wanted to learn more about the land, more about the people who lived on the continent. So that was a lifelong mission of his. I knew nothing about. I didn't know he had such a connection and such a longing to learn about Africa. But this is one thing that fueled his education endeavors. Booker T taught himself how to read the alphabet, how to read, write, and he became a powerful thought leader and also a revolutionary when it came down to building an institution, as we know today as the Tuskegee Institution, Tuskegee University. He also had a lot of political ties. One of his mentees we know as W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois was also a thought leader, Harvard graduate, PhD, and he was a close friend of Booker T. Washington. They did have odds. In former literary work, we learned that they had odds based off of their work, their endeavors, their political views, but it wasn't. It basically came from Booker T. Washington having an issue with someone who's associated with W.E.B. Du Bois, and he believed that W.E.B., out of loyalty, should have not dealt with a person who had a critique, a bad critique on his work, which is Booker T's work. That person was Monroe Trotter. He was a big opponent of Booker T. Washington, but he was befriended by W.E.B. Du Bois. And W.E.B. Du Bois had an issue with the power that Booker T yielded at that time. It was called the Tuskegee machine, which he used to get a lot of things done in this time that helped bills to get passed, especially his connection to Africa. This is where I come in. Booker T had a lot of ties to Africa. He wanted to do the Tuskegee experiment by students who graduated would go to Africa and go implement some of the things they learned in agriculture. And one of the countries that Booker T went to go help was Liberia. This coin here was gifted to me by Alex from Hartford Coins here in Baltimore, Maryland. My father was born and raised in Monrovia, Liberia. And this coin here is from, see, can you read it here? There we go. Get a better lighting. Well, this is one of the coins that was handed out, founded in 1816. And we see here, this is a Liberian coin. The American Colonization Society. And Liberia, 1833. Now, one thing that Booker T did for Liberia is the second oldest black republic in the world, the oldest black republic in Africa. Only second, the first oldest black republic is Haiti. So what did Booker T do for Liberia? When Liberia was looked at by France and other countries, they wanted to take parts of Liberia and cut Liberia up, its resources. And one thing that Booker T helped do was help Liberia maintain their independence. It's one of the only first independent nation in Africa, and also has a close relationship with America. So Booker T helped, based off Dr. Tyrene Wright's work, help Liberia to keep its independence by using what they call the Tuskegee machine, his political advisors and friends that helped him make things happen here in the United States. So this is a close connection that Booker T had with Liberia. Remember, this is where my dad's from. Booker T was a Pan-Africanist. A Pan-Africanist is an African American, a person born on American soil who has a deep connection for unity towards the continent of Africa. He tried his best through his endeavors to show that he was totally connected to Africa and Africa's mission of being united and uniting slaves or captured Africans who to have a connection back to the homeland. So, the Haitian coin, one of my favorite in my collection. How did Haiti have a connection to Booker T. Washington? Well, Booker T. Washington was involved in the first Pan-African Conference. He helped promote it here in the United States when he was asked for help from the Secretary of African Association, which his name was Sylvester Williams. He was the secretary of the African Association, and he canned the phrase Pan-Africanist. And he asked Booker T for his help in spreading the word about the Pan-African Conference that was happening. So that's what Booker T did. He used his press and also his reach to spread the word about the first Pan-African conference. Haiti also had Pan-Africanists that was involved as well. They also connected with Booker T. Washington. Some of the Pan-Africanists of Haiti, you had John Prince Mars and Louis Joseph. So John Prince Mars and Louis Joseph were two Pan-Africanists who helped, talk about Pan-Africanism and uniting Africans from abroad all through the continent together and understanding the philosophy. So Haiti was also involved. So from starting the first and supporting the first Pan-African Conference, Booker T. Washington, he also took the Tuskegee students to the Togo and also his assistants in Liberia. So it was his connection. A lot of people don't know about his connection to Africa and also Haiti by sharing the philosophy of Pan-Africanists. Who else did Booker T inspire? Booker T inspired Marcus Garvey by way of Jamaica. Okay? They never met, but they did share letters. Dr. Tyrene Wright was a student at Tuskegee Institute, a university. And she read 15 volumes of Booker T's work, 300 pages each, a total of 4,500 pages. In those volumes, you found information about Booker T's involvement in Africa. Who learned about that when Pan-Africanists started to take rise in Jamaica? Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey wanted to meet Booker T. Washington, but by the time he made it to America in 1915, Booker T passed away. So he never had an opportunity to meet the great Booker T. Washington, but he was inspired by his work and he chose to bring his work to life. Okay? Who was inspired by, Marcus Garvey? The parents of Malcolm X. Malcolm X's parents were Garveyites. They believed in the Back to Africa movement. One of the people that inspired Marcus Garvey was Haile Selassie. He believed that it was Africa unified, taking over, protecting their country. He looked at that as something to be proud of, and the first African nation with an emperor being crowned. So a lot of Rastafarians, hold pride to Haile Selassie. Marcus Garvey was inspired by him. Marcus Garvey, like I said, once again, inspired Malcolm X's parents. They was Garveyites, and thus Malcolm was born, became a member of the Nation of Islam, later on became an Orthodox Muslim, and the story goes on. I just wanted to share how all this was connected. And I learned that in chapter 2 of this book, and how Booker T. Washington was connected to the mall, knowingly and unknowingly. Thanks for spending 15 minutes, less than 16 minutes with me. Take care, guys. The story of Silver has history, man. Embrace the history, no matter where it's coming from. Peace.